Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to my webinar today. Today we're going to be discussing the mobile threat landscape, or more rather, understanding that landscape. So today, in this agenda, we're going to be looking at the mobile threat landscape as a whole, the type of mobile threats that actually exist, the sort of statistics for breaches on mobile devices, and the upcoming GDPR regulations. We're going to have a brief introduction into mobile threat detection, what it is, how it actually works, and then we're going to finish off with a conclusion. So moving on then, a bit about me. So I am an EM&S consultant from PowerON platforms, 7 years in IT. My background is in the mobile arena, something that I'm very, very passionate about. The reason for this is, if we look at the way technology is going, we've gone from a desktop to a laptop to a tablet. Now we are going to a mobile sort of a state. That is where technology is going. And it's really interesting. If you had caught my my webinar, or sorry, my blog, one of the things which I was talking about is that if you look at the evolution of a phone, predominantly it was just made for making calls and texts. Nowadays, your mobile device can potentially have just as much sensitive information on it as your laptop or your desktop. So why shouldn't we protect that? Or I guess more the question is, we should protect that. So we're going to go into that, and we're going to discuss that a little bit further. So as you can see, you can catch me posting on our website about the latest in Intune technology and new features that are coming out with Intune. So understanding the mobile threat landscape then. First of all, we need to understand what types of mobile threats are out there. So it's predominantly based split into three types. So we've got app-based risks, network-based risks, and device-based risks. So app-based then, Trojans and spyware. So predominantly you think about the app stores. Android, for example, as many people may know, it's a lot easier to contract a virus on an Android device than it is on an iOS device, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. So when we talk about Trojans and spyware, we're talking about side loading, so actually downloading source media, installing it on the device, or maybe even getting it from the store in Android's case. So iOS do a better job of vetting the store, but there are rare occasions, as you do see in the media, where there is a breakthrough and it does make it onto the store. So vulnerabilities in app data transfer, risky app behaviors, side-loaded apps. Also, we have network-based risks. So when we talk about this, we're talking about a man-in-the-middle attack. So someone sitting in the middle between you and an endpoint and listening to that traffic. And obviously the types of network risks that we have available. And then, as most people know, device-based risks. So jailbroken devices is something that we see quite a lot. So they're the three main types of mobile threats that exist on mobile devices such as Android and iOS. Now here's a breakdown of actually, I must give credit to our partner Lookout. So this is one of their slides which I borrowed. This gives you a breakdown of actually the types of threats that we were just talking about, and actually gives you a breakdown of what a enterprise mobility solution such as Intune Mobile Arm will actually protect you from alone. So as you can see, if the device is lost, or we want to distribute the app, and as you can see, what there is limited support on policy violations, data leakage, jailbroken, and routing. But in terms of the three main areas which we've just spoken about, so malicious apps, container exploits, and networks attacks, it does nothing. So the way that I like to think about mobile device management is actually more, in a way, protecting the user from themselves, protecting them from losing that device, or and someone picking it up and being able to get access, or necessarily maybe the user picking up the device and trying to transfer the data out. But a mobile device management solution will not protect you from a virus of some sort, an attack, a malicious cyber attack. That's not what it's there for. So you may have seen this recently. Microsoft are very much pitching threat protection solutions. So what this in essence actually does, um, we will come on to shortly, but that it allows the bridging of the gap. Almost see it as the analytics of what's going on the device, which allows the mobile device management solution to take action. One thing to be clear is that these solutions are not antivirus solutions. An app that gets installed on a mobile device would not have the permissions to remove another app or take another action, because that would be deemed as potentially suspicious or strange activity. So the likes of Lookout, for example, which I mentioned earlier, they rely heavily on an enterprise management solution. So the likes of Lookout will be able to see what's actually going on the device, and we'll be able to pass that information to the likes of MobileIron, AirWatch, and Intune, and actually allow that to then take an action. Once you've got the information about what's going on, or you know something's going on, you can take the action. So they very much play hand in hand. So we're talking about, we're talking about the types of threats that exist. What sort of data do we actually have on the device? Well, this is a very, very good slide. So as you can see here, devices have access to enterprise email. So this may contain very, very sensitive information that your business, if we think about this as a whole, this could be attachments, this could be sensitive emails between correspondence. That sort of information you definitely would not want to get out, to get leaked out, and especially with GDPR, which we're going to come on to. So credentials. So credentials for websites you may have accessed, or even potentially business access, so business credentials that you use to connect into your internal system. Your phone will store that sort of information as well. Enterprise networks, so VPNs and Wi-Fi. It will store the SSID and the encryption keys. Enterprise apps, so any of your SaaS applications or your in-house built applications. All of them sort of applications will contain personal information or corporate sensitive information, which you would not want to be leaked. Your photos, so say for example you've gone to a customer's site, you've taken a picture of something. That information is sensitive. You wouldn't want someone else to get hold of that information. That alone would be a breach. So examples of that is whiteboard screenshots, IDs, and then more commonly the type of functionality, what we see in sort of spy movies, GPS, microphone and camera. So if you was to install some sort of a malicious threat, it is very possible that they could actually get hold of that information and interact with the device to determine your location, access your microphone, and actually potentially even spy on what you're doing. So it's clear to see that there is a lot of information stored on a mobile device. Now, just touching on enterprise networks there, if I was to install a malicious threat, we'll take WannaCry as an example. If I was to install some sort of a malicious threat and I've got an always-on VPN connection, the possibilities are endless. So it doesn't just extend into what's on my phone. If you install something and you are on your enterprise network, it wouldn't stop there. So there is a possibility for it to extend out further. So we're talking about GDPR. What does that mean for us? and we talk about these mobile threats. How often do they actually come about? Well, I've got some interesting statistics which I've taken from various sources on the internet. So we'll start with the statistics about actual breaches. So as you can see there, I won't read it out, but there was a significant amount of breaches in 2014. Quite breathtaking, if I'm completely honest with you. So that was from Breach Level Index. 5.2 million smartphones were lost or stolen in the US in 2014. So, an incredible amount of numbers of stolen smartphones, and you can just imagine the amount of sensitive data that was on them. This one should come as no surprise. 1 in 5 Android users experienced a mobile threat in 2014, and that was from a reputable source, which was Kaspersky. There has been a 262% increase in the number of iOS vulnerabilities compared to 2011. So we were talking about earlier about the fact that people assume, would be the right word, that mobile threats don't exist on iOS. They do, just not as common. It's a lot easier to infiltrate an Android smartphone due to the way that the apps are loaded on the store, whereas Apple are a bit more due diligent with checking the source code to make sure it doesn't actually contain any malicious code. That said, there was a recent outbreak, which was the Pegasus attack on iOS, which done some serious damage. So iOS devices are not impenetrable. There has been a 188% increase in the number of Android vulnerabilities compared to 2011. So just summarizing that information then, these breaches are becoming more and more often. As cyber criminals are, I guess what I'm trying to say is, as the enterprise mobile phone starts to get more data or more sensitive information, it's looking more and more attractive for cyber criminals to target this information. And it's also something that we don't tend to protect as much. If someone puts down a laptop in front of you, you know that there's going to be an antivirus, there's going to be group policy. Phones at the moment are very much okay. We give our end users corporate access, but it's very limited. So it's something that we definitely need to start to think about, because as you see, these types of threats are becoming more and more often. So GDPR, I'm sure everyone that's in this webinar has heard about it, knows about it, but just to recap then, what is this? So coming in next year. So it's regarding breaches, so leaking of sensitive information. So in the case that it was non-intentional and it's a minor breach, you will just receive a warning. There will be regular periodic data protection audits. Now, if this continues, you will be fined up to 10 million euros or up to 10% of your annual worldwide turnover. So significant amount of money there. And if we talk about what we could do to protect these devices, so utilizing solutions such as Lookout with a mobile device management solution, it makes sense to go with something like that and pay a little amount to secure your data, because the loss of data isn't just traditionally, it used to be about damage to reputation and potentially trade. Now it's also a significant fine. So by spending a little bit on securing your mobile devices, we can avoid that. And there is also, if it is a significant breach, you could alternatively be fined up to 20 million euros or up to 4%. So some scary stuff there. So what is this mobile threat detection then? Well, it allows you to leverage your chosen mobile threat defense vendor as a source of information for your compliance policies and conditional access rules. So to break that down, what we're actually doing is we're allowing an app that will sit on your device and will monitor for strange behavior, potentially apps that are not doing what they should or any suspicious activity, and that information is passed to a mobile device management solution. From there, we can start to take action on it. So in the case of us, which is Lookout, it works in this way. So the threat detection solution is enabled, application is deployed on the device. As we were saying, the threat detection application scans for any anomalies on and on detection of such anomaly, the threat details are passed to the threat provider. So that would be, in our case, Lookout. So from there, the user receives an alert explaining how to remove the threat. So we mentioned earlier, we were saying that the Lookout themselves wouldn't actually be able to remove the threat. So this is why it's not a, don't think of it as a antivirus solution, because that sort of solution doesn't exist as of yet. But what it does allow is the mobile device management solution to take effect. So see it as the information about the threat has been gathered. Once we've got that, the mobile device management solution can take action. So as we were just saying, the threat information detected is passed to Microsoft, which when using conditional access marks the device as non-compliant. Now what that means is when devices are non-compliant, it means that we block access to managed applications. Now managed applications is very, very, very key in this webinar. And it's something that we were working, well, something that I'm really, really passionate about. Now, I really wanted to show everyone something that we've been working with to bridge this gap, which will be highlighted in a minute. Unfortunately, the demo gods weren't with me today, so it may have to be something for another webinar, but we can certainly talk about it. So, managed apps then, which is really, really key. So, the experience. So let's say, for example, I've sideloaded an application that is a malicious threat. That information is passed to Lookout. Sorry, is passed to Intune. From there, what happens is Intune marks the device as non-compliant. I then attempt to access any of these managed apps. So Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, Teams, Intune Managed Browser. I can't get access. Now, if you're looking at my screen right there, something becomes very, very clear. So the message coming out from Microsoft is very much that by utilizing these threat protection solutions with a mobile device management solution, you're ensuring risk-free access to your corporate data. That statement isn't technically true, as you can see. So perfect. If your corporate data exists in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, Teams, or the Intune Managed Browser, certainly you're secure. So you can't open it, and a malicious threat can't open it. Perfect. But that isn't always the case. So for most businesses we speak to, they tend to use the native app, so the native iOS app as an example. That would not be included. So think about the types of information that you would have in there. So coming back to what we were saying, there could be attachments, there could be customer information, there could be acquisitions in an email. That information you would not want to breach. The native phone book, for example, if you have a customer's phone number in there and your phone gets breached and it's picked up, that's data loss, that's GDPR, that is a breach, that is a fine. So the message that I'm clearly trying to put out here is that whilst Microsoft are helping to bridge the gap, it's not where it should be. So phone book, as we were saying, the native mail client, photos, any photos you've taken of the on a customer site, videos, notes, the native calendar, you know, GPS, camera, microphone. What about if you as a business start deploying your own line of business application? That would be susceptible as well, or something such as Concur, expenses. You know, the list absolutely goes on. Anything outside of their managed apps will be susceptible to an attack and potential data breach. There's a really important message that I wanted to put out there. So with that aside, I was looking to actually demo what we were looking to actually do about this. Unfortunately, I'm unable to actually supervise my iOS device, but we can talk a bit about it. So it's clear to see that without locking these actual applications down, threats will happen. So something that we were working on internally was the way to remediate threats. So as you can see here, what we've actually done is, if you're familiar with Configuration Manager, you can see all of these list of collections. Now what we're doing, so we were talking about the idea that Lookout passes threat information to Intune. Now in our case, our Intune is hybrid, so that information gets synced back. So what we've actually started to do is we've broken down with these dynamic collections. So what these collections are actually doing are looking in the SQL database to pick up these types of threats. So as you can see here, if we was to look on this collection and we look on membership rules, you can see that we have a dynamic query that's looking for these threats. Now what we've done isn't revolutionary. But what we've actually been able to do is that with this, we've made a deployment. So when, let's say, for example, you was to install a malicious app, let's call this, I don't know, any particular application. Now, when that application gets installed, as I say, we know that information gets passed over to Lookout. So what we've actually been able to do in our solution is we are taking that threat information and we're dynamically creating a application whitelist. So the end result, which unfortunately I can't actually show you due to not being able to supervise my device, is the phone gets locked down and the only thing that's left on that device is the threat and the company portal. So we're talking about how you can't actually, we're saying how you can't access the managed apps. With doing this, what we've actually done is we've stopped any sensitive information from being accessed simply by using dynamic whitelisting. So that threat information, that app bundle, is being passed to us, and then what we're actually doing is we're dynamically on the fly creating a whitelist or blacklist and sending them out to all devices. So I install a threat, automatically my phone is locked down to one app, the company portal. When I remove that threat, what happens is that information gets passed back, the device removes itself from the collection, and then all of a sudden the device is restored. So by doing this, it allows us to really give a risk-free solution in terms of you cannot access absolutely anything while there is a threat on that device. So it's taking what Microsoft had done and taking it a step further. So that's what we were that's what we've been working on. In terms of the overall solution with Lookout, I can give you a demo on this. So this is the Lookout portal. So all the other solutions will work in a similar fashion. So you can see here we have our types, our classifications of our threats. So you can see that we have backdoor, man in the middle. What we do is we customize a risk level. So you as a business, what do you deem to be high? So let's take spyware, for example. We've got a medium threat. So what happens here is Lookout knows that if it detects spyware, that is a medium threat. The first thing it's going to do, as you can see here, is it's going to alert the device. It's going to tell the end user, you've installed this. This is malicious. Please remove it. Now, coming back to our solution as well, that we were looking, or what we've actually been working on, is that even if a message pops up on an end user's device, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to remove it. So we aren't where we want to actually be. But from there, as you can see, so spyware is medium. It's a medium risk. That information actually gets passed to Intune to say, okay, on Stewart's device, for example, there is a threat and it is a medium risk. What we then do from a mobile device management solution is we say, let's just navigate to compliance policies. What we then do is we push out a compliance policy, or we have a compliance policy which says the mobile threat maximum risk cannot or has to be at medium. So for example, what that would actually say is any risks that you've classified as low, the user would still be able to access their data or their managed applications. If a high threat was to appear on the device, so you've customized, you've said spyware is a high risk, the device or the user would not be able to access Word, Outlook, Excel, SharePoint, any of their managed applications. That's not to say, and I think this is where the point I'm trying to get across. So you've got a threat on your device, so you can't access Word, but that information, you have a threat on your device. That sensitive information does not just exist in them applications. So what that actually ends up looking like is coming back to this. So the experience. So the user receives a message to basically say that the application contains sensitive information and you are not compliant currently. So it's up to the end user to remove that threat, which is when they get given back access to the various managed applications. So I guess as a conclusion, mobile threat protection is vital. It is important. We've seen from the PowerPoint presentation, the amount of data that's the sensitive information that will be stored on a mobile phone. So a mobile device management solution will not protect you from that. So it is something that we will need to start looking at. To answer the question, is an MDM solution enough? No, it's not. It's not going to protect you from mobile threats. It does require a third-party solution. Intune and device threat will only protect you from your data when in managed applications. Anything outside of a managed application will be susceptible. And the bottom line then is that whilst this technology provides a much needed additional level of security to what we currently have, it's currently not there yet. So to ensure or to make sure that you're fully secure, your data is fully secure, we need to do a bit more. Technology needs to get better, and we need to start looking at all the locations that sensitive information exists, not just these managed applications. So I hope that was beneficial. Apologies, I couldn't actually show you our demo of the automated remediation. But moving on, in some really useful resources to keep up to date with what's going on the enterprise mobility space. I'd certainly recommend following that blog. So if you are a config manager user, there will be frequent updates. You'll know when the latest config manager upgrade, so 17.10, as well as Intune, AIP, anything to do with EM&S. And Intune user voice, which is really, really useful. If you do find that features do not exist in Intune currently, the team over at Redmond do listen. So if you do have a burning desire for a feature and you have a really good justification, it works in the way of voting. So if other users, other businesses actually upvote that solution, they will look to implement it. So do we have any questions? From all of the team at PowerON, I'd like to say thank you for joining our webinar, and we hope to hear from you soon. Thanks. Bye.